Hey y'all, life's pretty bad here. It's looking a little better. I want to give you all an update of what's going on at the protest I'm staging at YMCA's. I've now extended my protest out past the Northampton YMCA. I've gotten a lot of people involved and agree with what I'm doing. If you don't know, the YMCA has a misinformation campaign pretty much going at least three or states, four states wide. I think it's probably all across the U.S. where they have signage on their locker rooms for the men's locker room and women's locker room when they allow every gender in every space. And I've had multiple conversations with each YMCA as to why they won't let their employees know that their spaces allow males and female spaces and females and male spaces. And I was out at the Greenfield YMCA today and had some great conversations with some members that weren't aware of what was going on. And they went inside and are signing up. People are stopping the streets, talk to me, take my flyers, figure out what the heck's going on, didn't understand, very concerned about the rise in this nation to use transgender rights, to abuse that idea, to encroach on women's spaces, their sports, their identity, going further into just transgender rights, but making it so transgender rights only matter, when a lot of transgender people don't feel that way. I've talked to transgender people, I've talked to transgender parents, and they're not really happy about what's going on, how there's this rogue, I would say, radical gender ideologues, which basically have a mic for something they don't agree with. They just want to try to get along. It's actually making it hard on transgender people. And the YMCA is one of those entities that's doing that. Though they may seem to think they're be doing the right thing, and they may just be caught up in a woke ideology from their board members, they're turning a blind eye to it or let it happen. And basically, I called up the Greenfield YMCA, asked them point blank, like I have many YMCAs, do you allow biological males in the women's locker room? And they said, we align with Massachusetts law. And I say, what is Massachusetts law? Massachusetts law is whatever your gender identity is, that's what you can go. So if you identify as a male, and you're a female, and that's fine. There's a female as a male, doesn't matter. And I ask them also about non-binary. So if you're non-binary, you can use the female locker room, the women's locker room, excuse me. It's clearly not a female locker room, just a female locker room. If you can use the women's locker room, non-binary, transgender woman, transgender, and women. They did tell me that transgender men are not allowed in the women's locker room. Though they're the actual females, they're not allowed in the women's locker room. And conversely, transgender women, which are men, if they identify as women, they're not allowed in the men's locker room, even though they're males. We had this long conversation, and she talked herself into a corner and basically admitted that every gender is allowed in every space. Basically, I just got her to that point. It took me a while to get her there. And then I said, so why do you not want to have transparent signage? Why do you not want to have transparent signage? And she's like, oh, she didn't really have an answer. She goes, I go, well, you think it's important to tell your members what they're walking into? Do you want to mislead them and let a person know, a woman know, or a female, excuse me, let me confirm, a female know that she might walk into a male in her locker room, or that male might be watching her change? Doesn't she have a right to know that? Doesn't that female have the right to know that? And doesn't that male have the right to know that that might be happening to them? She really didn't have an answer for me. She goes, oh, well, if they really want to know, they come to the front desk and ask. I'm like, well, that's because they don't know, because you don't put it on the sign. And it's very clear why they don't put it on the sign. Because they know they will get massive backlash. If they make it public and they put even a little sign that says, whatever your gender identity is, if you think you're a woman, you can come in this space. If they put that on the sign, they know they would get backlash. Members would be upset. Some would leave. all these things would happen. It would happen in the males and the women's spaces. But they know if they put that up there, so they'll just leave it as women's locker room. When it's not a women's locker room, it's not a men's locker room. Every space is all gender. So then I asked her, non-binary, where do they go? She said, oh, well, they go, they can go in the all gender, the family locker room. She go to the family locker room, the family locker room. So are non-binary people allowed in the women's locker room? She said, yes. I said, so basically what you're telling me is that the people that are allowed in the women's locker room are biological males, biological females, people that are unsure of their gender, but females that identify as males are not allowed in the women's locker room. But the males are allowed in the women's locker room. And it made no logical sense. And she just got tongue-tied. She didn't know what to say. She's like, I'll pass your information on. Well, can you get your director to call me? Oh, yeah, sure. I go, can you get my information? Click. Hung up the phone on me. Another YMCA in Greenville, where I grew up in Greenville. I'm not sure if the policy is that extreme, but I'm learning these things out. Another thing is I had this conversation with this woman. I said, so what if somebody comes into the YMCA and identifies as a bunny or a unicorn or a pig or whatever, or wolf? I've seen people that identify as wolves and as bunnies, even cotton candy. What locker room do they go to? Do they go outside to go to the bathroom or change? Because they're identifying as animals. So maybe they should go outside to change. She says, oh, they go to the family locker room. So that's good to know. So the people that identify as animals go to the family locker room. And the people that are actually females that don't want to be in a space where biological males are possibly naked and staring at them, because, women have been sexually assaulted in this nation, and they might be a little uncomfortable around every single male. And, women, some of them do have body image issues. I think I've met a couple of those. Yeah, I think I have. I think I've actually talked to many of them that don't like to be seen naked by other men. Sometimes not even their boyfriends. Sometimes they like to have, when they have intimate moments, they literally turn out the lights. So those females are now forced to be around males or not even know when they're going to come into space, because the YMCA does not want to be transparent about what's going on. And one thing's for sure, in Massachusetts is a mass misinformation campaign, because every YMCA in Massachusetts, and it looks like Connecticut too, has the same policy. Whatever you identify, if your gender identity is woman, you can go in the women's locker room. If it's non-binary, you can go in the women's locker room, from my understanding. If it is bunny or wolf or rabbit, you go in the family locker room. And if you're not happy about it, if you're not happy as a woman with males changing around you and you getting naked around them and them getting naked around you, then you can just go to the all gender. You can go to the family locker room, because you know what? It's not a women's locker room. Clearly, it's not a female locker room. It's, actually, why don't they just make it one big bathhouse? Why don't they just allow everybody to go in and change all together? Because it's clear that's what the YMCA is, because they don't recognize and they don't respect the privacy that males and females ask for. And I think it's pretty simple ask. I think it's pretty reasonable ask to not have a penis around you when you're changing, or somebody looking at you when you're changing, or any of that, or the possibility. I don't think that's a big ask, but apparently in Massachusetts and Connecticut, it is a big ask. So I will continue doing what I'm doing. Next time I'm probably going to call another YMCA let's see, what state should I call next? I'll call Pennsylvania next, and I'll actually put the phone call on when I'm talking to them. I can't actually let you hear what they're saying because there's laws that permit that. But I can let you hear what I'm saying because I give you consent to hear what I'm saying. So you can hear what I'm saying, but you won't hear what they're saying. So you'll know what's going on in the conversation. So you'll have the party consent from me, the side that you're hearing. So next video, that's what I think I'm going to do. I'm going to call, I don't know, I'll pick a Pennsylvania. Maybe I'll pick Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I'll call their YMCA and ask them, do they allow males in the women's locker room? And we'll see where it goes. I have a feeling it's going to go very similar to all the YMCAs I've called so far. They skate around the issue. They don't want to be transparent and put something that says women's locker room, transgender women, non-binary women here are allowed in here because they don't want people to know that. Because if they do, they probably lose a lot of memberships and definitely get a lot of backlash. But they can deal with people one-on-one and double team them, use the power of the Y to intimidate by calling them transphobic, hateful, a myriad of adjectives that really make no sense. Because you're really not transphobic if you don't want somebody to see you naked or you don't want to see other naked people. You're just a private person. So I'm going to call that Connecticut YMCA and we'll see where it goes. And hopefully more of y'all start speaking out about this because I can tell you straight right now, it ain't getting any better. And if males and females, we don't start speaking out, this will only get worse. This won't just be 12 or 15 people, transgender women deciding or transgender girls that they can compete in women's sports and literally cheat with their biological advantage, which is, you don't have to be a genius to see it. I mean, look at any sport, you can see that women are crushed. I mean, how many decades did it take before a woman could even slam dunk a basketball in a pro WNBA game? I mean, men bench press, they're so much faster. Their speed, their quickness, their agility, everything is always better than it's just a reality. But yeah, if we don't start speaking out about this, more and more transgender girls and women are going to feel like it's okay for them to go on a girl's team and literally steal a spot from a girl, steal a roster spot, steal a podium finish, steal a record, steal a scholarship, steal endorsement opportunities, steal a livelihood. Because these girls, and I know them personally, they get up at like 5 a.m. to bust their butt on their sport to just shave off a little bit from the competition so they can just win by a little bit. But when a male comes in there and they obliterate them and they're beating them by 10, 15, 20 seconds, in some cases minutes, it just makes you just want to quit. It's like, why even try? I've heard this from girls before. So basically they're getting up at 5 a.m. to compete in an unfair playing field, and we're not saying anything about it. It's sad. It's pathetic. I don't care who you are. It's pathetic. We need to start rising up. And also people staying late. You know, I played sports out through high school. I played high school. I played college. I get up at 7 a.m. for basketball practice. Sometimes I stay late. I understand the women's side, but I understand the men's side very well. And I understand male biology very well. And I understand that my ability in basketball as a man was pretty low on the men's scale, but I could pretty much in college beat about just any woman I wanted to in one-on-one. I could. Pros, I could beat them because I'm a man. It's just a reality. And I barely played on my college team. It's just the reality. If we're not going to start acknowledging that reality and start standing up for women, which is being disappeared too at this very moment, and girls, at least standing up for females, biological females, you know, XY chromosomes, people that normally have vaginas and breasts, those people, females, this is only going to get worse. Same thing with spaces. What's going on with the YMCA will only get worse. Private spaces for girls and females and women, quote, women, will only get less and less. More and more people will think that they can just take a space and be gender inclusive when the point of a locker room is exclusivity. That's kind of the point. That's kind of the point, the reason they have the walls and the space there so people can do stuff in private. So when you're saying, we're making a gender inclusive locker room, it's kind of contradictory to the whole concept. It really does. You want to use your gender inclusivity anywhere else in the world, it kind of makes sense. But the point of a locker room is to have a place where you can feel comfortable about getting naked and doing intimate things and not have a male in your space. I don't think I'm alone in this. I really don't. And I know that there are males that don't like having females in their space. I think it's more danger to the female than the male. In the women's locker room, it's more danger to the other females from the male. Because we all know not all sexual assault is by men, but a large majority of it is. And that's reality. That's fact. You can look at the numbers for yourself. Yes, there are women that are doing that. And there are these trans women, which are basically women that are basically, and they're not a lot, they're handfuls that are actually raping women in prison, calling themselves trans women. And if we continue to not acknowledge this woman and man reality in male and female, this will only get worse. More women, trans women that are males, will rape more females. And like this woman that I talked to at the YMCA in Torrington, Connecticut, I think it was, said, well, nothing's happened in the locker room yet. Oh, so that's your policy. So you want to have a policy until somebody gets raped, and then you'll do something about it. Glad you're making me feel so much better, YMCA, for my daughters. Really feel real comfortable. Not remotely okay. So it's just going to go on, folks. We really need to start standing up for females, women. Women is in XY women. I mean XX chromosome women. Women that have vaginas and breasts and breastfeed and birth children and have menstruation and deal through menopause and have, unfortunately, horrifically, miscarriages and abortions and all those things that this transgender women will never have a clue about. Because as a male, I have not a clue. So I'm not even going to assume I do. So I know I've gone on a long time, but it's kind of a big point. It's kind of a big point that we're not really standing up for females in this nation enough. And we're scared about being called transphobic. And I get it. I talk to people at the YMCA all the day. You know, Billy, I really agree with you, but if I speak out, I could lose my job. I can't sign your petition. I could lose my job. I could be socially exiled. I could be kicked off news service. I could be attacked there. Welcome to my world. It happens to me every single day. I've been socially exiled. Luckily, I work for myself. I have enough money that I work for in my life to where I don't have to worry about a job. So I get that concern. I get the concern that you can't speak out because you have to provide for your family. But being called transphobic and hateful, it is the repercussion of standing up for females. I don't think that's much to ask, because I think there are more and more girls that are actually standing up to this. And you know what's happening to them? They're being kicked off their teams. They're being kicked out of their locker rooms. They're being shunned. They're being called transphobic. They're being called hateful. Regardless if these people have no problem with transgender people, they just don't want them around them when they're naked or see another naked male. I just want to keep saying that. There are instances all over the U.S. cropping up more and more, and there are more and more institutions that try to silence them by trying to take away their scholarships, by threatening to take them off the team like the UPenn team did. There's a case in, I think it's New Hampshire, where they shut down a locker room because 3 or 4 girls did not like being in the room with a transgender girl. So they shut down the whole locker room. So when are you going to, when are more and more people going to start standing up? Because this woke wave, denying biology and what it means to be a female and the things that they deal with, is getting bigger and bigger, and it's going to drown females. And then it'll be too late. And you'll be like, oh my gosh, how did that happen? How did it happen that men are all over women's sports? Let me think about it. Title IX is now endorsed the idea of transgender women being a part of their organization, when the organization was set up specifically for females, and now they're allowing males in. It can't get any more baffling and ridiculous and absurd and stupid and mind-numbing as this. This is it. The YMCA, step 1, huge organization, 20 million members, 20,000 locations. Title IX, supposed to support women all over the U.S. to make sure they have equal representation, be it money, equipment, all these things, is now allowing males to be a part of that organization. More and more schools are allowing women to cheat males to cheat in transgender women sports and saying, oh, it's okay. It's transgender rights. Trans rights matters. It's okay when trans women cheat because they've had it so tough. I'm not denying they've had it tough. I've talked to a lot of them. That does not give them the right to cheat. It does not give them the right to cheat. It does not give them the right to take away people's private spaces, females' private spaces, to where they feel uncomfortable, they feel nervous, and they feel scared for a myriad of reasons that I've talked about. And it does not be all right for people to say, I'm a birthing person. No, you're not a birthing person. You are a woman. You can only give birth if you are a female. Quit lying your misinformation campaign. And no, you cannot chest feed. You can only breastfeed. Only breast allow milk to come out. So don't buy into this lie, this misinformation campaign of chest feeding and birthing parents and trying to get rid of the word mother. And we have a Supreme Court justice that won't even define what a woman is. That's a sad Supreme Court justice. That's really sad. I don't know how that, I don't care if it's a male, a female, a transgender woman, transgender man. If you won't even acknowledge your own gender and stand up for them where they're being stamped on by a transgender ideology that is basically hurting transgender people because they're not even in control anymore. Majority of people that I see getting mad and upset are not even transgender people. They're people that have not a clue. It's the same thing that happens with blacks a lot of times. You'll see a lot of white, in my town, mainly white women talking to me about blacks, telling me about my white privilege, telling me about these things. Taking the mic from about, here, you don't know what to say, black person. Let me take it and tell you. No, actually, let's give the mic to the black person and let them say. You don't need to tell me about white privilege. You don't need to be telling me about transgender rights when you're not even transgender. You're not even transgender. And I just want to talk about one more thing that just got me going here. There's this ideology, and I touched on this a little bit before. There's this ideology that gender can be whatever. There are people that, like I said before, that identify as wolves, as bunnies, as teddy bears, as unicorns. And these things are a disservice and a disingenuous movement to transgender people, because transgender people have a legitimate battle going on in their body and in their brain as to what their gender is. And it's very real. And calling yourself a bunny and a unicorn or a wolf or whatever you want to call yourself is ridiculous and not reality. It's you playing Halloween. And it's sick that you would do that. When these people have these situations where they get to the point where they literally chop off their breast, remove their vagina, and put on an artificial penis because it's that real in their head. And you put on bunny ears. Ooh, that's a big step. Wow, you made such a sacrifice. Or you paint your hair red or green or put sparkles in it that you wash out the next day. Wow, you really are committed to your cause. It's really disingenuous. And transgender people should just say, don't speak for me. Don't lie. I have gender things in my head that are very real that I'm dealing with, whether I feel like I'm a man or a woman or whatever, for whatever those reasons are. Don't say stuff that's just your fantasy in your mind, trying to make yourself look special with your gender pronouns of ever-ending list of, I can't even pronounce them all. It's not he, she, and him, her. It's and they, them. Those are fine, but it's an ever-ending name of names. I can't even pronounce them. I mean, they just go on and on. And if we continue this basically anarchy of gender, it's going to destroy every other gender. So please, man, I went on a lot longer than I planned to go. I expanded on a lot of things I feel really strong about. And I hope you follow what I'm doing at dadfedup.org. I think we really got to start standing up for females because that's who they're going after first, because they know if they go after males, that there will be a heavy price to pay because there's that physical advantage. There's that testosterone that will not study for the bullying in a locker room. That will not. So, and the consequences are far much worse for women than they are for men, because that's why it's starting at women. You take what I would say is the most vulnerable population, and then once you have that, then you probably, I don't know this, but you probably use that to intimidate the men population. But there's no advantage to doing it in sports. You don't hear any outrage because a transgender man in man sports is a disadvantage. They get crushed. They have no chance because they are in a biological deficit. It's a fact. So let's, please, can we just get real? Can we start believing scientists, the world is round, not flat. We don't drop off to where abyss where there are monsters at the end and they attack us at our boats like when, before explorers started heading out and finding those things out. We can see from space that the earth is round. And we don't really embrace flat earthers. We say, no, I'm not going to listen to you. It's insane. I'm not going to oblige this idea. I can see very clearly the world is round. You can see pictures the same way you can see very clearly our biology. You can look at a person. That's a male. If they're naked, that's a female. You can look at their chromosomes. That's a male. That's a female. And yes, for all y'all, what about intersex? Yes, there's intersex, which is less than 1% of the population, which is basically an abnormality that has a combination of X, Y, and X chromosomes. But there are abnormalities all over. There are people that have 6 fingers, 6 toes. Those are not considered. You don't consider those in the population. Those are abnormalities. So male, female, we can see it. So if we're going to acknowledge and not acknowledge people that say the world is flat, let's not acknowledge people that they're males and females. Pretty much it, okay? Let's not go down this idea of I'm a bunny and I'm a whatever. I'm a unicorn, I'm a dragon, I'm a wolf. I mean, it just goes on and on. So please, flat earthers, it's basically the new gender ideology. It just has no biological relevance, and you got to start standing up for women. I said enough. So check me out at dadfedup.org. I'm pretty sure that my page is being censored. I've pretty much been censored everywhere. I've been kicked off every social media platform. Let's see. LinkedIn, Nextdoor, Instagram, Twitter, censored on YouTube. Because people don't want to hear alternative reality if woke corporations are running stuff. But I'll continue to be here. I don't know. Maybe I'll pick up some subscribers here and there. Hope y'all have a good day. And let's start rising for females. I'd appreciate it. I know the females in this world would too. Take care.